Welcome back to Actors Turn Directors on Eliciting the Best Performance from an Actor, part three of my interview with the late, magnificently talented Leonard Nimoy, which I'm reading from my book, Actors Turn Directors on Eliciting the Best Performance from an Actor. It's a book that was sponsored by the Directors Guild of America, DGA. And the purpose of the interviews with 10 A-list actors turned directors was to educate myself on the actor-director relationship, how to elicit a great performance from actors, something that I was feeling insecure about prior to directing my first film. I'm going to pick up where I left off on the part two of the interview. Question: any challenge in Star Wars 3 that you didn't have to go through in Star Trek 4? Leonard: there was the challenge of dealing with the actors, winning their confidence. By the time I did the second film, I thought I was in a much better position, but on the contrary, I had the reverse. In the first film, by the nature of story, I had very little to do as an actor. My character didn't show up until the very last moments. To a great extent, I intentionally designed it that way. The story was structured so that Spock would be seen growing from a 12-year-old to an adult, and I had other people to do the performance. So there was very little of my having to act and also direct. In the next film, however, I had much more presence as an actor. As a result, it got tougher because the Spock character called for 2 hours of uninterrupted makeup work. I learned very quickly that you cannot come in and sit down in the makeup chair and also go through the set periodically to check this or check that, take a look at this shot, take a look at this lighting, take a look at this paint job, whatever is needed, and then go back into makeup. You would never get finished with doing the makeup. To go to work at 7 a.m. as a director, I would have to be in the makeup chair at 5 a.m. and remain uninterrupted there for 2 hours. At 7 o'clock, I would step out of the chair and become the director. So the job got tougher on Star Trek 4. On the other hand, we had a great time making the picture because it was much more light-hearted film than Star Trek 3, which was a tough study in character struggles and problems to be dealt with. Star Trek 4 had a lighter motif to it and more sense of adventure. There was more elan about the whole thing. Question: if you had your choice, would you rather separate the acting and directing? Leonard: yes. I have great respect for the people who do it film after film, but I would rather not, particularly if I'm doing a 2 hour makeup job. Question: as a director, what do you do once you get the green light on a project? How do you begin your homework? Do you break down and analyze the script? What kind of notes do you do? What kind of technical research do you do? Leonard: well, in the films that I've made, by the time we got the green light, I've already done a lot of breakdown work studying the arc of the adventure and the arc of the story and the arc of the characters. Where are the internal break structures for the second and third acts? Are there tonal shifts? Are there location issues? These are the kinds of notes I make to discuss with the production people. Obviously, by now, casting has been in progress. To a certain extent, the green light depends on successful casting, and a lot of that would have already been going on. So, by the time the films that I've directed have been greenlit, there is already a momentum, already a sense that this is a moving film, this is a moving project. And now, in terms of the simplest, broadest strokes of storytelling, you have to be aware of what are the major events that are the turning points for the rising action. You have to be prepared logistically because in one scene we turn a corner and suddenly discover that there is a whole new city. We play several night scenes and suddenly, bang, we're out into the street in daylight and there's a whole new atmosphere that you want to communicate to the cameraman, the actors, the composer, everybody. We need a shifting of gears here. We're in a whole different mode. Things have changed. We have discovered in the last scene that such and such is no longer true. We have new information that must be assimilated and acted upon. Question. So, what sorts of notes do you write down when preparing yourself to go out there and do it? Do you work with extensive shot lists? Leonard, it depends on the nature of the scene. If it is, for example, a location situation where there is a particular shot called for that opens a scene, you have to have a design for the shot because if it calls for a crane and you haven't designed the shot, there is no crane when you arrive to shoot it. So those kinds of logistics have to be thought out, and I'm very precise about planning them. I may want to go out there on a ladder or on a lift of some kind with a lens and say, the first shot will be right here. I will show the cinematographer the specific frame and say, that's the left side of the frame, that's the right. We start a pan across, an arm in at the same time, and we end up right here. We take measurements and nail that down so that the crane can hit those marks. I am already visualizing it in my head. And then maybe some changes may occur as a result. There's a helicopter shot in Funny About Love when Gene Wilder and Christine Lottie are standing on the bridge outside the cab that's broken down. I feel this is a major turning point in the movie. It's the breakdown of their relationship. The shot was designed to be at the end of an act because we are seeing the dissolution of their relationship as they stand there. A couple of isolated figures standing beside this broken down taxi in this terrible sea of humanity. In the very next scene, we see her moving out. So I wanted a big shift of gears here. That shot was very carefully designed, as you can imagine, because of the helicopter and all the logistics involved in closing the Queensboro Bridge in Manhattan. We shot the scene on a Sunday and it was very difficult. There was a lot to do. As I recall, there were 5 pages inside the cab, as well as this gigantic helicopter shot, and we had control of about 100 cars. But because it was well thought out and planned, we were able to do it all in one day, one very rough day. On the other hand, a simple dialogue scene in a controlled environment may not require such predetermined shot lists. In a scene of this nature, I'm much more influenced by what the actors do, their usage of the set. Once I see their actions and movements, I can set my shot list to best serve both the technical and the emotional life of the scene. The usage of the set principle I learned from the late Leonard Nimoy has been a very useful principle whenever I do my directorial preparation on a film. I am very thankful for the privilege I had being able to interview the late Leonard Nimoy. As I mentioned before, I found my interview with him to be like a PhD on actor director relationship and filmmaking in general. If you found this interview valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm not concerned about getting hundreds or thousands of views, but I would be very happy to know if the targeted audience is reached and they tune in to these wonderful interviews that have helped my career tremendously and can help yours. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to engaging with you, my audience, once more in the Leonard Nimoy interview, part 4, coming up soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.